Actually, let's move on to TARP's cousin, not direct brother. Fast forward less than 5 months after that speech, and Bush's successor was warning the nation what might happen if Congress didn't immediately pass the stimulus.
Even if we do everything that we should, this crisis was years in the making and will take more than weeks or months to turn things around. But make no mistake, a failure to act and act now will turn crisis into a catastrophe.
Again, careful observers might note that some of the things that he's mentioned in that speech were going to happen if we didn't pass, including double-digit employment, did take place.
Yeah, but a lot of people were saying, oh no, inflation is going to kick in. That hasn't happened. A lot of people were right and a lot of people were wrong, but again, it comes down to the same basic argument. If you believe that at that moment that the fundamental problem in our economy was people weren't spending, they didn't have money to spend, businesses weren't investing, well, here you are with the ability to print money. And if you sit back and say, well, we're not going to stimulate, we're not going to, remember what the money went to. Keep teachers from being laid off, cops from being laid off, get programs going that were already supposed to be arguably going anyway. It was simply action over inaction. I think history is going to show, and frankly, I think it already has, that action stopped us from having a much worse recession.
So let me ask you this. On the issue of the stimulus in particular, part of the sell was infrastructure, roads, bridges, and yet, just as recently as the last 2 weeks, the president has been speaking about the dire issue of broken roads, bridges, and infrastructure. If it did what it was supposed to do, why are we still talking about this in the same exact tone?
So far, that's 3 times people have made the same argument. Yes, you have to build bridges, but look, we still build bridges. Yes, no one argued in either one of those cases it was supposed to solve every single problem of the financial.
It was a percentage of 10%
Hold on a second. First of all,
on the sell to the American people, which was the infrastructure.
You're exactly right. Stimulus was not big enough. You're correct. That it should have been much larger. And frankly, a lot of us argued at the time that we should have made it much more muscular. And by the way, when you're building, it's much different than what was going on during the Bush years, where money going to tax breaks that weren't actually buying you anything. At least this case was buying us bridges and roads and keeping teachers on the job and cops on the job, and it worked. I mean, look at the unemployment. The unemployment has been turned around largely. The recession is over. But you can say no, whenever you do anything, you say, oh, we built this bridge, let's cut the ribbon, and then complain, oh, that was terrible because there's another bridge down the road. You still have that bridge.
I think what we can say is this recovery has been much more disappointing than any of the administration's own prognosticators forecasted at the time that the stimulus was being passed. And I can't give you the final word because we're out of time. But
that's against the law. That's against the law.
Thank you very much, Anthony Weiner. Coming up, the road to hell keeps winding after the break, sending us straight through